Right, I'm back in the area where I had my first pastorate in my early 20s. Little place called Achill, just outside Prestine. You're on the Welsh border there. And this is another old church in the area. I did one up the Casco Valley last week. Now, this is Pilleth, which I walked to. Not that far really from our manse, which was in Achill. And yeah, used to walk a lot in those days, think nothing of it. My first Sunday I ever preached there, I've said in the last video last week that a minister normally preaches in a church, and it's a term we say on view, where the church weighs the minister up really, his personality, preaching, what have you, and whether he is suitable for the church. So that first Sunday we stayed with Raymond Evelyn Thomas on the farm in the Casco Valley, and the second time I went, which was a month later, I stayed with the secretary, Peter Beachy, and his mother, Mrs. Beachy, down in Prestine itself. And yeah, so I woke early in the morning and I thought, I'll walk up to the Casco Valley and I'll have a farm breakfast. So I passed Discoid and up Casco Valley. That's going to be too dark, see, so I'm going to just soak out a little bit there. And it was a fair walk, I suppose, but thought nothing of it. As always an early riser. And so I got up there, and thinking farmers got up early, but they were all still in bed, curtains all drawn. So I walked back down. So I teased Raymond Thomas then later in the day and said, I came up early expecting a farm breakfast, and I thought farmers got up early and you were all still in bed. And beginning of a wonderful relationship with the Thomases. They had their children, Grace, Ariel, Lythil and Gerrit. And yeah. So yes, I thought nothing of walking in the area, still a bit actually. And this church I came across, there's a field to the left here with Owen Glyndŵr, where there was a battle with Owen Glyndŵr, Welsh against the English, steep field. And they reckon that there's a communal grave in the field where a lot of the body parts were buried. When I went here, it was all open. Like, see, those are the days, I remember, when churches were never locked. They were always left open for people to come in, and that's how it was. I came in, and there was armour from what period, I don't know, but still lying on the fields, lying on the windowsills. So, yeah, an amazing part of the world, really. You're on the border between England and Wales. And it's amazing, really. The buildings, they're so old, and you feel sometimes you're back in medieval times, And they reckon there's a tunnel under here somewhere, going off to an old, very old house, behind a bit of a hill. So, yeah, so I'm just working on now. I'm not going to be too long on this because I can't do much more till it all starts to dry, really. So I'll just get a bit of the hill up in here. So you want the white to stand out, so that's why I've done the sky all blue, so the white of this chapel will stand out. And what I might do, because I think I got a bit of time. I don't know, got to gauge it. So look, so we are. And maybe we'll get a dark on this side in. Let's have a look. That noise is the train going past. We're staying in my daughter's caravan down in Narberth. Goodness, in bed, fast asleep. And There we go. I might just get that side in there too, like that. And I don't think I can do much more here, really, apart from getting the underneath in here and getting some more darks in here, really. I can do much more than that. But I should just leave that, I think, for now. And then come back next session to get some of the trees in, get the details in here. And yeah, there we go. Right, here I'm back with Pilleth. I've built up the detail here of it. Now I've got to frame it. We'll start with the foreground. So I'm going to want some warm colours in here. And I'm just putting this in first. There we go. Yeah, so this is my first pastorate in my early 20s. I was Little Baptist Chapel in Achill. This church is Pilleth, which wasn't too far away. And yeah, it's amazing, precious memories of our time there. Time all too short, really. And but yeah, remember our organist Edith Wilding. She yes, old Edith, and she had an old A48 car. She used to pick up Mrs. Elms and bring her to church. And this old A48 was ancient. It didn't have a window on the passenger side. And Mrs. Elms said to me one day, "Pastor, I've told Edith, I'll pay for the window." She used to come, Mrs. Elms, the Parker coat on, you know, the ones with the old fur sort of collars. And said, I've told you that I'd pay for the actual window if you got it done. And then one day up at the farm, she said to me, "Come up, I got something to show you." We went out, and she opened the barn door, and there was brand new Fiesta. So she had a bit of an upgrade. And then one particular day, I'd been out visiting all day, really, and got back, and it was early evening, it was dark, and I had a phone call. It was Edith. "Yeah, Pastor, my mum has passed away." "Oh, I'll be up there now, Edith." And their house, you had to go through this estate. I'm not talking about a council estate, I'm talking like a manor estate. And then up through trees and opening, shutting gates after you in the dark. And then it was up over a mountain into a valley. And this house, well, you should see it honestly. It was built in the 1500s. And the Lord Sheriff of Radnor lived in it in the 1600s. And the front came out in big oak sort of pillars and to a cobbled yard. And when I went in, all the walls were wooden panelled, all hand carved. I went into this room, and there was Edith's mum lying there, like they did years ago. You know, they would lay people out, wouldn't they, once they passed away, quick as they could, with half crowns on her eyes and cotton wool on her nose and ears. And I was only in my early 20s. In fact, it would be my first funeral I ever took. And the one thing in college, they never showed you was about funerals or anything like that. You had to more or less just fumble your way through. So that was my first experience, yeah. And yeah, and in fact, some time ago, goodness me, we saw the house on TV. It was some program on TV, and I said, "Come look at this. This is where Edith lived," and her brother, in the end, they farmed together there. But they were lovely people. We were so blessed to have a church like that as our first church, and hear people who loved the gospel and loved the word, and, you know, we were just so blessed, really. Oh, I was in heaven to be out walking, visiting, jumping on tractors, that sort of thing. Oh, my. Very, very precious memories. And it's something like this, just to go back and visit And it's surprising how you can do that, isn't it? Now, see how that is coming now. I need to build up something on this corner as well, which we need to work on different colouring again, I think. We'll keep it like that. You've got to watch it on curtains. That's either side, and it just takes away them. So I think I might just do that. And I'm using what is the Chinese brush. Very inexpensive brushes for watercolour because, you know, watercolour brushes are quite expensive. And particularly for washes or you know, but a cheap alternative is the Chinese brush, which just goes on and on. Look, it's just amazing. Let's get a few darks in there, I think, now. And we'll have to call it a day here then. I think we're more or less done. And on the final session, we'll really finish them all off. And but you see, you can work big areas very fast like this. I won't do much more than that, I think. I'm going to labour it too much. There we are. Let's call him a day now. And the trick is always you can use your fingernail, get the effective branches and have it coming down here. There we go. So we better just leave that like that for now. We're coming to finish off this painting of Pilleth Church now. It's near, I've been saying, my first church in my 20s, when I was in Achill in the Baptist chapel there. This wasn't too far away. And, yeah. And so I'm just tidying up, getting these little details in. And, yeah, the Baptist chapel, the manse, that's the house that comes for the minister. And it was, my study was in the front room, and there was the door. You went in to the room, and to your right then was the fireplace, which was in the wall, a bit up the wall actually. And then to my left was the window looking over to the chapel. And then ahead then, where I'd have my desk, was looking out across the field, down to the River Lug. In the field we'd often have sheep, sometimes cows. And yeah, and Mrs. Beachy, dear soul, secretary's mother, Mrs. Beachy, her husband was the minister there many years ago. He died very young, and she stayed on there. She was so good to have stayed on as a help, and contributed so much to the life of the church. And she was telling me when they were young, I don't think Peter would have been born then, her son. And her husband were entertaining, and they had a deacon and his wife. He was one of the farmers. And my study would have been their dining room. And so Mrs. Beachy was sitting at the table, and her back was to the fire. And the farmer leaned across the table and said to her, "Mrs., mind your head." And he spat over the table into the fire. So there we are. Full of stories like that about years ago in that area ministering, which was lovely. I'm quite used to that, being from the colliery in the background. Collieries often chewed tobacco, and they were often spitting. There we go. I don't want to do much more than this, really. I think that is it. All I'll do is I'm tinting this a little bit to get the light on the stones here, that's all. But I think we're more or less done now. But this is lovely with art, isn't it wonderful in art? You can go back to a place like this and relive a day that came across this. Now let's just get that light on that side. Got to watch. I tend to fuss now, see. You got to know when to stop. It's just like preaching. You got to know what to leave out. You got to know You've got to know when to stop and call it a day. I'm just going to get a few slow highlights in here, I think. Oh, see, of course you can do that, get the light catching. A couple of branches, and only here and there. You don't do it everywhere. Just here and there, suggestion. But there we go. That's Pilleth.